not to disparage some of the new horror films that you guys like The Shining and Dawn of the Dead and whatever, but you really could be doing a lot better on Halloween in terms of choosing DVDs to watch, maybe films that you've not seen before. Well, take this one. It's called Eyes Without a Face, and it's probably the most revered horror film that nobody really knows about, except for like real buffs, and now you know about it. It's a French film from 1960, but don't let that deter you from watching it. It works on a really visual level, and that's the great Edith Scobe. She plays the film's heroine who's sort of trapped upstairs in her bedroom. She's horribly disfigured and she wears that mask on her face. Her dad, who's a surgeon, goes out into the real world and lures women to his operating table. He's hoping to graft their faces onto his daughter's face and sort of expunge his guilt. It's a really, really creepy film. It's also extremely sad and probably the most important horror film to come out of France, period. Does this look familiar to you? This is us creeping around in an attic somewhere. It's sort of like John Carpenter's Halloween. That's what it reminds me of. But this is actually a film called Black Christmas, directed by the late Bob Clark, and it's actually from 1974, which makes it several years older than Halloween. This was an admitted influence on John Carpenter when he was making Halloween, and it's one of those sorority house stalker films. There's Margot Kidder, who's later famously of Superman. She's one of the sisters in the house, and there's this, creepy killer who lives upstairs, and he's going to come downstairs and axe them all. The film's got great atmosphere, and it's very voyeuristic, and it's, the paranoid mid-70s vibe that it has too. It doesn't hurt either. Mysterious phone calls come in. This film also predates the original When a Stranger Calls by at least 5 years. It's a very, very influential horror film, and it's certainly one that horror fans love and revere and bow down to. Give it a shot.
No, I've had a couple.
Oh, it's The Stuff. This is a horror comedy, actually, more funny than scary, and it's a film called The Stuff from 1985. It's kind of a surprise to me that more horror satires weren't made in the 80s, the sort of greed is good, Reaganomics 80s, especially ones attacking our own conspicuous consumption. There's The Stuff, though, which is one of them. It's about a product which is kind of like yogurt. It comes out of the ground, and it turns Americans into mindless zombies. There's the dad. I love that line. The stuff itself is discovered by miners who, one of them actually tastes it and says, "Hey, this is pretty good." Paul Sorvino's in this film, Danny Aiello, and you'll laugh at it more than you'll be scared by it. But it's going to stay with you because it feels sort of like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type nightmare. And there's our hero being chased by parents, family members who basically just want him to eat well. That's kind of what The Stuff is about.
I saw it move too. Get in the back.
Okay, Final Destination 3, and I already hear you sighing. Final Destination, not even the original, but the sequel, the third one. That's Mary Elizabeth Winstead on the left and Ryan Merriman on the right. This is a franchise, actually, that I think gets a lot of undeserving heat for being mindless. It's actually not mindless, but it's simple, yes, but it's very well made. And these suspense sequences that the Final Destination movies are known for have great Hitchcock-worthy editing in them. Like they all take place in places where high school students go to. This is one in a drive-through, obviously. There's another truck that's pinning them in. And there's a truck that's coming down the hill where the driver's not in the seat. There's great suspense that's built up in these shots. You're talking about pure craft, and in a way, the movies really do speak to a certain kind of free-floating death that comes from above. It's a very modern anxiety, certainly after 9/11. I think Final Destination 3 is going to be returned to one day and seen as very emblematic of our times. Of course, I'm not going to ruin it for you. Click this link. There should be a link right down here for 6 more picks. They're in this week's Time In section.